Welcome to Grants 101, brought to you by the University of South Carolina as part of the Grant Readiness and Capacity Empowerment, or GRACE training series. By the end of this lesson, we hope you will know what a grant is, be able to tell the difference between public and private grants, understand what to think about before applying for a grant, and easily identify the steps to apply for a grant, from preparing your organization to managing the grant money. What is a grant? A grant is money that an organization or person known as a funder gives you to help pay for a project or an idea that you want to complete. You don't have to pay it back, and you do have to show why you are the best organization to complete this project, how you will responsibly use the money, and report back on the results. What is a publicly funded grant? A publicly funded grant is money given by an organization to an organization, government agency, or business to support a public purpose or project allowed by the law. Public funding comes from money that is collected from local, state, and federal taxes. Public purposes and projects are often defined by the priorities of the government agency giving the grant. Publicly funded grants typically have strict rules about how the money can be spent. They can require detailed reporting to show how the money was spent. This is to reduce waste, fraud, and abuse of taxpayer money. Here's an example of a publicly funded grant program from the state of South Carolina. Governor Henry McMaster announced in his 2025-2026 executive budget press release, "I am also recommending that $150 million be appropriated to create the South Carolina Public Assistance Program to be administered by the South Carolina Emergency Management Division. This grant program will allow local governments, public utilities, nonprofits, and charitable aid organizations to apply for disaster recovery funds." What we know from Governor McMaster's comments is that the South Carolina Division of Emergency Management will be offering grants for disaster recovery projects to local governments, public utilities, nonprofit organizations, and charitable aid organizations. What is a privately funded grant? A privately funded grant is money given by an organization or person to support an issue that the funder chooses. Private funding comes from money that is not collected from local, state, or federal taxes. The recipients of privately funded grants can be organizations, government agencies, or individuals. Privately funded grants may have specific interests, like supporting a particular type of work or research, addressing a social justice issue, or advancing a specific goal. They are known to be more flexible than publicly funded grants in terms of the application and reporting requirements, but you are expected to use the money responsibly. One example of a privately funded grant program comes from the Gaylord and Dorothy Donnelly Foundation. The Donnelly Foundation funds programs in land conservation, artistic vitality, and collections. The grants that they support help fund projects in one of these three areas. How can you find out what funders want to support? Here are a few suggestions. You can check their websites. Oftentimes, organizations' websites include information about what grants they have available. You can contact them directly. Many funders have contact information listed on their websites. You can look for recent press releases or news articles about grants they have awarded in the recent past. They may offer these grants again in the present. Finally, You can contact your local elected official or watch annual speeches like the State of the State or the State of the Union for information on what is being funded by government agencies. Here's a question for you. Is a grant from the South Carolina Department of Education a public or private grant? The answer is a grant from the South Carolina Department of Education is considered a public grant. The South Carolina Department of Education is a state government agency. How can you figure out if you should consider applying for a grant from a particular funder? It's important to know if three things align before you make this decision. First, you need to identify what your organization does well. Typically, this is what your organization's mission statement includes. Next, you need to make sure that what your organization does well, its mission, aligns with what your potential funder's goals are. Finally, you need to have a responsible money management or accounting system in place. A responsible accounting system can identify what each dollar in your budget is being spent on and provide proof of it. This is important because funders want to know how every dollar of a grant is being spent, along with evidence of those expenses, like receipts and invoices. If these three factors align, then you are in a great position to consider applying for a grant from a particular funder. Here's a scenario for you. You lead a community-based organization teaching young people how to save and invest money. Over 500 students have graduated from your program. There's a funder offering a grant to teach kids life skills, including how to manage money. You have a good accounting system, but sometimes you're not sure how every dollar in your budget is being spent. What is the next step you should take? Should you apply for the grant, look into improving your accounting system, talk to the funder, or give up? Here's the answer. Your organization has a history of accomplishing its mission, and you have found a funder that supports your mission. The next best step to take is to improve the organization's accounting system. This will ensure that you know how every dollar in your budget is being used, which could be a requirement that your funder has in its reporting. Let's talk about the necessary steps to apply for a grant, also known as the grant life cycle. Step number one, prepare your organization. This can include completing required registrations with your state and federal government, having in place an accounting system that can track what every dollar is being spent on, and developing a clear idea of what your mission is as an organization. Step number two, come up with your idea. What project do you want funding for that fits within your organization's mission? Step number three, find your friends. Who else do you need in order to get this project done? Do you need to hire people for your team? Can you partner with another organization to complete this project? Do you need to find a partner who has a responsible accounting system in practice? Step number four, find funding. Find a grant that will fund your project. Step number five, apply. Write and submit your application after ensuring that you are an eligible applicant. And the final step, step number six, is to manage your grant. Once awarded, negotiate your terms with your funder, get your project done, report back on your progress, and finish up your grant. Thank you for joining us for Grants 101. At our next GRACE module, we'll explore how to use data, tools, and resources to help identify a project idea for a grant application.